Alright guys, so tonight we're going to start off with a little unboxing. It's a bunch of OEM bolts and parts from Honda One in St. John's. Just all nuts and bolts, new shrouds, basically all bolts, couple gaskets. Tonight we were actually planning on working on the engine video, but we didn't get the parts in that we wanted. We had a few little mix-ups in the order, getting parts that we didn't need and stuff like that. We never end up getting the studs for the engine, so we can't put the cylinder or nothing like that on. So that's where we're at with the engine. We're just waiting on the studs and a few more parts. We was planning on putting the engine video out this Monday, but it's going to be another couple weeks, I think, before we get the rest of the parts. We're working on the shocks as well, but the Pivot Works kit came with a wrong bushing, so we're just waiting for that bushing to come in from Honda. As for like the rest of the bike, the rims are going together as we speak. We're waiting on the rear tube to finish those up. We have the tires here ready to go on. The brakes and the linkage is all done. All these parts are ready to go on the bike, like the chain and pipe and that. Still waiting on the clips for the brakes from Honda One. So in the next like 2 to 3 weeks, we should have most of the parts, and then we can start assembling the bike on the stand. I also have a new stand ordered, so I'm waiting for that to come in. So tonight's video, we're gonna be prepping our bikes for Labor Day weekend. We're getting ready to go to Marble and Corner Brook for the weekend. So we're just gonna go through the bike. So I had to put a new tail light on mine since my blinker is broke. My exhaust keeps blowing my blinkers off. So here's the tail light I got. The blinkers are actually built into this tail light. It'll also hold my license plate on the back because I also broke the bracket off on that. Austin's also doing a bit on his bike. What do you got to do with your bike, Austin?
I basically gotta take off the plastics, take the wiring harness out of it. I gotta redo the full wiring harness that runs up to my headlight and my switches and everything. I got to put in some new brake light switches and probably check to see if some of the plugs could be broken or something. I also have a new headlight. Should be a little bit brighter than what I got in there. I also missing a couple pieces from my engine. Inside this cover, there's this oil passageway that goes to the piston squirter jet, and there's a dowel that runs through with an O-ring. I lost it while I was redoing the bike this spring, and now I'm going to actually replace it.
So I'm just going to start off. I got to drill out these 3 rivets, and then all I got to do is take that plug off, and then I'll repin that plug and add the new tail light. Shouldn't take me too long.
So to take this right side cover off my bike, I'm going to need to drain all the coolant out of the cooling system, and I'm also going to need to remove all the oil just to make sure I don't make too big a mess when trying to change out these parts. This could be a mess, so it could be good to get on video.
So I have the old rivets drilled out. The old taillight is disconnected. When I made this wiring harness, I put plugs everywhere so I could maintenance it really easy. There's the old taillight there. Now I'm just gonna get this one wired in. I'm gonna make up a new plug, crimp some pins on, pin the plug. I got some Raycam loom to cover the wires, and then I can just mount this up into place. So I have all the old pins took out. So now I can take this clip, repin it, and attach it to the new brake light.
So I got the cover off the bike. The parts I'm replacing is this little pin and the O-ring that goes around it. I must have lost it while I was cleaning out the cases on the bike when I was doing the rebuild this spring. This pin here goes in this oil passageway that goes to the oil squirter jet, and the O-ring goes around it.
So I have the new pin on. It's all heat shrink. The wires are all loomed up. The Raycam DR25. You got the 2 yellows are your blinkers, you got your red is your solid brake, and then your blue is your brake light, and then you got your ground, and it's ready to be put on the bike. So I got the new tail light all mounted up. I had to use new spots for an underneath. Couldn't use the old rivet holes because I'd actually drill into the lens. But it's all wired up. A little test now. Tail light is on. There's a right blinker, left blinker. Hit my brake light, Austin. Brake light works. I'm ready for the weekend.
Okay, so next for my bike, most of my wiring harness is kind of getting corroded, and I got to replace basically all the wiring that runs up to the switches and the lights on the front. I also have to wire in 2 new brake light switches. I have some banjo bolts that just screw in and have leads coming out of them. and they'll just have a plug on them that goes into the harness. So to fix my new harness, basically what I did was I laid out my old harness on the floor. Then I pulled out the wires to be a little bit longer than the original harness. So when I actually go to make the connections, I'll cut it up to the length that I need. For the past hour, I've been basically doing this. This is a technique that we like to do on our wiring because sometimes if you put wires in a loom and you just put them straight, they tend to force themselves into a weird shape. Grabbing the wires like this makes it so the wire moves freely and it doesn't give you a hard time. I believe this technique is called eccentric twisting. So I have the new wiring harness ran up through the chassis of the bike. I just finished up doing all the solder connections for the front headlight plug and to the connections that go up to the handlebars. I still need to put some heat shrink on these wires that go up to the brake light switch, but this is as far as I'm gonna get for tonight. Made pretty good progress. I had the light on it and now I tested it and all the blinkers works and the brake light works. Didn't get a chance to see if the actual brake light works when I hit the switch, but I'll find that out tomorrow. It should all work.
So we got the two bikes ready for Labor Day weekend. Got the new tail light installed. My bike is all ready to go. Speedometer is also ready. I actually use an old phone as my speedometer and use the GPS. Lights are all working, everything is tightened up. Austin's bike is also ready. He actually had a little leak on the bottom of his cases, so we just put a little tiny bit of silicone to see if we could push some silicone into the seam and stop the leak. Besides that, all that needs to be done is the plastics and the gas tank put back on. Should be ready for tomorrow morning. He also just redid all his wiring harness with the new tail light and stuff, so everything is rewired and working. So ready to go for Labor Day weekend. We'll be getting up and heading up tomorrow morning. And I guess that'll be it for tonight's video, guys. Till next Monday.